If you've ever Googled, how much do I need to retire? You've probably seen 17 magic formulas, each one claiming to be smarter than the last. Here's what I learned working in the financial services industry for over 5 years. Most financial advice is just a simple layer of math on top of your accounts. And retirement planning, arguably the topic that gets the most attention, is no exception. Hey, I'm Paxton, and I recently left my corporate 9 to 5 to start Threshold Money, the personal finance app I've always wanted but have never been able to find. And today I want to show you the simple, no-nonsense framework I'm using to track my progress towards financial independence. All right, let's get into it. Before we touch a single number, I think retirement needs a quick rebrand. For me, the word carries the connotation of clocking out of my job for the last time and then going to kick my feet up on a beach for the next 20 plus years. But practically speaking, retirement is something much more specific. It's a threshold you cross. The point at which, instead of relying on your job for income, you can withdraw a certain amount from your investment portfolio every year to cover your living expenses. Said differently, retirement is just financial independence, or not needing to work for money. The reframe matters because the threshold isn't an age, it's a number. And yes, that's why my app is called Threshold, but more on that later. So how do we find that number? Well, it really comes down to two sides of one equation. How much you'll need on one side, and then how much you'll have on the other side. The first side is figuring out the total invested balance you'd need in your retirement accounts for your investments to cover your annual expenses. And it turns out the math isn't that complicated. It traces back to a rule called the 4% rule. The 4% rule was born in 1994 when Bill Bingen, a financial planner, tested every retirement start year going all the way back to 1926. He found that from 1926 all the way to when he did his research, even the unluckiest American retiree could have withdrawn 4% annually from their investment portfolio and still survived for 30 years. And the 4% rule endures today, not because it's perfect, but because it's a simple, stress-tested benchmark that turns the question of how much do I need into one calculation. And that calculation is my desired annual spending in retirement times 25. For example, if you want to spend $40,000 annually in retirement, 40K times 25 equals 1 million. If you want $100,000 a year to spend annually during retirement, 100K times 25 is 2.5 million. But there's one thing that this back of the napkin math forgets about: inflation. 25 times your desired annual spending in retirement gives you the answer in today's dollars, or in other words, what you would need if you retired this afternoon. But unfortunately, nobody retiring in 20 years gets to buy groceries at today's prices. What 40K annually buys you today is vastly different from what 40K annually will buy you in 20 years. This is because inflation compounds year over year, the same way that your investments do, but this one just works against you and not for you. Let me put some numbers on it. So let's say you want to spend $40,000 annually in retirement. Like I said earlier, the math checks out to you needing $1 million to retire. But that's in today's dollars. At 2.5% inflation, which is roughly the modern era's annual average, the same lifestyle that today would cost you $40,000 would cost roughly $74,000 in 25 years. I know, it's rough. So the real target isn't 25 times 40K, it's actually 25 times 74K, which comes out to about 1.85 million, not 1 million. In this scenario, that's the number that actually has to be sitting in your accounts on the day you cross the threshold into retirement. All right, so that's the number you'll need and why we have to talk about inflation. Now let's talk about the other side of the equation. Does your current saving get you to your target? Turns out the other side of the equation isn't too complicated either. You need just 4 things: the current balance of all your retirement accounts, what you plan to save, an assumed rate of return, and a compound interest formula to project what your accounts will be worth at your target date. If the projected balance lands above the required balance we just talked about, you're likely in good shape. If the projected balance falls below that, the plan likely needs to be adjusted. You could choose to save more, retire later, or adjust the desired lifestyle. Here's a quick example. Let's say you have $100,000 already saved for retirement. You want to retire in 25 years and you save $2,000 a month. And we'll use an assumed rate of return of 7% and an inflation rate of 2.5% annually. Run those inputs through the compound interest formula and you land at a projection of 2.19 million in 25 years. At a 4% withdrawal rate, that supports about 88K of annual spending starting in retirement. But here's that inflation lesson again, because $88,000 a year in 25 years will actually only buy you what $47,000 buys you today. Now, let me show you how all this runs live in the app I built, Threshold Money. And rather than showing my own accounts here, I'm just going to use a demo account and some fake data for illustration. So here's our demo account, Cam. In Cam's account, there's an Essentials canvas, and a canvas in Threshold is just a flexible workspace where you use your own accounts as building blocks to answer the questions you personally have about your money. What Cam has already done here in this account is they're tracking net worth, they can see spending categories, all the transactions across their connected accounts, all the investments across their connected accounts, and two goals. A debt pay down goal and an emergency fund goal. And you can see some accounts at the bottom here. So what we're going to do is take these retirement accounts that they have connected and create a retirement goal and see the inputs and projections we've talked about already in action. So now I'm going to toggle over to build mode, which is where I add new elements to the canvas, and it's where I'm going to create the retirement goal. I'm going to go ahead and tap plus goal retirement, and this launches a 3-step flow where we'll answer some questions and then be able to see the inputs and outputs. So first, let's set a target retirement age and note when we were born. So I'm going to say that Cam is ambitious and is targeting a pre-60 retirement, and let's say they're born in 1996, so 30 years old. Next, we're going to select the connected accounts that represent the ones we're using for retirement. And you can see Threshold automatically toggled on the ones it knew were retirement accounts. On the last step here, this is where the magic really happens. It's where we can adjust the levers of the inputs and see if those inputs bring us to an on track, off track, or at risk projection. Two cool things to call out here. For desired annual spending in retirement, because Threshold is a budgeting app, it can actually estimate what you're currently spending annually today. Threshold is looking back at transaction history to come to this conclusion. And of course, some of us will spend more in retirement annually than we do today. A lot of us will spend less. So this can be adjusted. And then in that same vein, the monthly contribution figure here comes from what Threshold knows about the average deposits you make across the retirement accounts you've toggled on here. So this is telling me, okay, across the 401k and the Roth IRA, this person is saving an average of about $1,500. The other inputs here are the percent assumptions. So we've got expected annual return, inflation, and withdrawal rate. Before adjusting any of these, let's see how on track Cam is to this target of retiring in 2055. So I go over to the projection and I can see this helpful graph where I know what I'll need, what I'll likely have, and then what I can spend annually starting in 2055. So unfortunately, we're off track here, right? The target of what we'll need isn't likely reachable given our current savings rate. And you might notice, okay, well, I see what you can spend annually starting in 2055 is actually just shy of 100K. And didn't you only want 80K of spending power? Yes, but remember the inflation piece here. So 98K a year in 2055 will buy about what 48K buys today. So that 48K figure is not meeting our 80K target, right? This brings us to the point where we have to adjust the plan. We can save more, retire later, or adjust our target lifestyle. So let's do all of those things just to see. Let's say Cam is like, oh, you know what? I could retire in 2062. That's fine. And let's say I don't think I'll spend 80K a year in retirement, probably more like 70. And you know what? I think I'm going to get a promotion next year. I should be able to save, let's say, $2,400 a month, probably. If we take a look at the projection now, we can see that the what you'll have number is now over the what you'll need number. So this gives us an annual spending amount in 2058 of $173,000, which in today's dollars equals just shy of 80K, which is in line with our new target of 70. So when I feel good about these inputs, when I feel good about the projection, I add this to the canvas. We'll see it show up in build mode here. along with the other elements. And when I toggle back to view mode, that locks the new element into this, nice dashboard-like view of our finances. So I can see in my goals here, I now have a retirement goal alongside my debt paydown goal and my emergency fund goal. Opening this here gives us the same graph we looked at during the creation flow, and it also gives us a snapshot of our progress. And after creating this retirement goal, we can always toggle the inputs and say, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to want to spend a bit more, for example, and I think I'm going to save a bit more. We can see the outputs reflect here, and then we can save those assumptions and we'll have it reflected here. All right, to wrap things up, I just want to call out that the retirement goal and threshold is a snapshot. It's not a fully fleshed out retirement plan, but it is a gut check on how what you spend today and what you save today are connected to your personal definition of financial independence. In the first video, I shared the perspective that money is just stored energy for potential future outcomes. And this is exactly what I mean. After a few minutes of honest math, the intimidating question of, can I retire at this date, becomes less of a mystery and becomes an actual number that we can start to steer towards. If this sounds interesting to you and you'd like to crunch the numbers yourself with your own accounts, the link to the waitlist for my app Threshold Money is in the description. Sign up for that. You'll be notified as soon as it goes live later this summer. In the meantime, drop a comment or feel free to shoot me an email if there's any questions. I'm always happy to chat. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.